Deeply.
On
On
behalf
behalf
of the
of the
chiefs,
chiefs,
I
I
wish
wish
at
at
this
this
point
point
to
to
particularly
particularly
to
to
apologize
apologize
deeply
deeply
on
on
behalf of
behalf
the
of the
chiefs
chiefs
and
and
people
people
of
of
Gold
Gold
Coast
Coast
and
and
Ghana
Ghana
for
for
the
the
atrocities,
atrocities,
the
the
cruelty,
cruelty,
the
the
inhuman
inhuman
treatment
treatment
that
that
were
were
committed
committed
400
400
years
years
ago
ago
by
by
my
my
ancestors
ancestors
during the
during the
Atlantic
Atlantic
slave
slave
trade,
trade,
where
where
over
over
400
400
years
years
ago,
ago,
millions of
millions
our
of our
brothers and
brothers and
sisters
sisters
were
were
captured,
captured,
sold,
sold,
and
and
transported
transported
under
under
inhumane
inhumane
and
and
cruel
cruel
circumstances
circumstances
through
through
Elmina
Elmina
Castle
Castle
across
across
to the
to the
Caribbeans
Caribbeans
and to
and
the
to the
New
New
World.
World.
On
On
behalf
behalf
of the
of the
chiefs
chiefs
and
and
people
people
of
of
Ghana,
Ghana,
I
I
do
do
render
render
unqualified
unqualified
apology
apology
deep
deep
from the
from the
bottom
bottom
of
of
our
our
hearts.
hearts.
I
I
wish
wish.
Alright, Shalom. Shalom. First and foremost, before I begin, I like to give all praise, all glory, all honor unto Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Racha Kodash. Double honors unto the apostles and elders of greatness. Soon as always, I say Shalom unto the elect. Alright, there's your brother Isaiah coming back to you with another video. Lord will, it is edifying. Title gonna be title of this video gonna be, yes, so-called blacks sold other so-called blacks into slavery. Right? And in the world, this would be how do you say, the first time I ever heard the talking point, which I didn't believe it at the first time. I didn't do the history to back up what was being said, because I thought it was just excuse, which it was an excuse, right? But first time I heard it being said was by so-called Edomites, not so-called Edomites, Salakia, so-called white people who are the Edomites, right? According to the Bible, the majority of them. Right, yeah, that's an excuse the Edomites would use to try and how you say, cover themselves for the atrocities that was done unto our forefathers by their hands, right? They would sort of begin to say, well, yeah, other black people, so black people into slavery too, what is the problem? Like, you don't talk about that, which they tell the truth when it's convenient for them. Scripture talks about they go astray as soon as they be born, speaking lies, which is what they're accustomed to do. But when somebody point out the shit them on, and scripture talk about inquisition will begin to be made into the house of the ungodly, chief ungodly ones in the earth, Esau, Edom, right? Inquisition is being made into them, so they look to scapegoat somebody else, give somebody else the blame. But you're as guilty as ever. But they were right concerning that, which is something I didn't research in the world. Right? I didn't want to believe that. Right? But they give us them umbrella terms like black, calling themselves white people. And when they give a group of people who, dark skin, that umbrella term of black, you're grouping everybody, which that is the problem, right? So what we want to get into is who were the blacks that sold which blacks into slavery, right? Because the blacks which sold were the Canaanites, right? And the blacks that were sold were the Israelites, right? So now, then the umbrella term was to just group all the dark races of people, or let me say properly, the dark nations of people on the earth together. So the dark nations would be the ones descending from Ham, which Ham produced Cush, Foot, Canaan and Canaan and Mizraim. Right? Mizraim is the so-called Egyptians, Foot is the so-called Ethiopians, Salakia. Cush is the so-called Ethiopians, Foot is the so-called South Africans, and Canaan, well, them is the Canaanites. Right? And they had a big part to do in our slavery, as he just explained, he just went into. Right? So when I get Joel, the third chapter, reading from verse 3. It says, and they have cast lots of my people because they had a part to play. Let's not forget. The ones, it wasn't Jake selling Jakes into slavery, right? The umbrella term was to try and pin the blame on us. No. We may have had one Jake. I'm not say one, maybe a few Jakes in that. But you sit down and say the mass amount of people selling us into slavery were us. No, it was them in cahoots with the so-called white man to put us on them ships. Because as they are known here as Tyre and Zidon, that is a port, a place that conducted heavy amounts of sea work. So works that had to do with the sea transport, that had to do with the sea. Tyre and Zidon was a beautiful place to do it. Right? That was a haven of ships. So yes, they had a part to play in us reaching over here from the Atlantic. Right? So read Joel 3 and verse 3. It says, and they have cast lots of my people, and have given a boy for an harlot, and sold a girl for wine that they might drink. Yeah, and what have ye to do with me, O Tyre and Zidon? All the coast of Palestine, will ye render me a recompense? And if ye recompense me swiftly and speedily, will I return your recompense upon your own head. Right? Because ye have taken my silver and my gold, who is the Lord's silver and gold is people. It says, and have carried into your temples my goodly pleasant things. Right? The children of Judah and the children of Jerusalem, have ye sold unto the Grecians. Right, so yeah, not only did they take them captives as well. Yeah, and this also, if you're looking at it from a literal sense, yes, they took the treasures as well. And when they spoil a nation is put into subjection, and that you get their wealth. That's how wealth works, right? But they also sold the Lord's people. It says here, verse 6, ye select the children of Judah and the children of Jerusalem, ye sold unto the Grecians. Who's the Grecians spiritually? Right? We will be known as Grecians according to Daniel, the 7th chapter, right? Is the so-called Edomites, right? So who would be the Grecians in that time when we would have been being sold, right? Transported from the west coast of Africa all the way over here to these Americas. Who would those have been? The Portuguese slave traders, the Spanish slave traders, all of them, Edomites, in cahoots with the Hamites, Psalms the 83rd chapter, that ye might remove them far from their border. Psalms 80 chapter has to be brought out now. Salakia. I will go to the information I had queued up here, and then I'll go to Psalms 83rd chapter. Where did I get? Was it Google? Right. I looked up who lived in Tyre and Zidon. And Zidon, okay, literally, let me see. It says Tyre and Zidon, same people, located in modern-day Lebanon, were major ancient Phoenician city-states, primarily inhabited by the Phoenicians referred to as Canaanites in the Bible, and by themselves. The skill maritime. What does maritime mean? What does it say? Define. It says connected with the sea, especially in relation to seaborne trade or naval matters. I said, what was the place? I'll go back into the video and look up the place they said it was. But it says what? Known for their purple dye and cedar wood, rulers and as independent cities, though often united under Tyrian leadership. So when you go now to Sidon, I wonder if I had it queued up. Yes. Genesis 10 and verse 15, it says Canaan begat Sidon. You go into the name Sidon, who was his firstborn, it says an ancient Phoenician city, an ancient Phoenician city on Mediterranean coast north of Tyre. Right? Yeah, so I wanna know what Tyre is. Tyre, go to that same Joel. They will tell you about Tyre. Joel 3, 6, 3, 4. Phoenician city on the Mediterranean coast. Goes back to the same what? Does it go back to Sidon? I think the man Sidon have the same root word. See. Well, they go back to look similar to hunt. Right, and Tyre goes back to what? 3 and 6, 3 and 4 to hunt. Flint, Heart, Pebble. Knife, well, ain't getting much there, but still, these were the people, right, who were in cahoots with the Edomites to sell us off into slavery. The Hamites, right? They had a part to play, right? So this notion that black people didn't sell black people into slavery, or which black people, as I said in the, earlier on into the video, which black people sold which, let me say it properly, which so-called black people sold which so-called black people into slavery, right? It would have been the Canaanites, the Hamites, right? The Hamitic nations, because that is the prophecy in Micah 4 said we would be amongst. Micah 4, reading verse, is it 7? Four and 10. Micah 4 and verse 10 says, being pain and labor to bring forth, O daughter of Zion, like a woman in travail, for now shalt thou go forth out of the city is way out of Jerusalem, and thou shalt dwell in the field. So if you read the book Babylon to Timbuktu, after we left Jerusalem because of the 70 AD siege, right? I wish I said it when you see the abomination that sounded the abomination of desolation stand in the holy place, flee ye out of Jerusalem. Let's see if I see it. Right. Matthew 24 and verse 15. When ye therefore shall see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet stand in the holy place, whoso readeth, let him understand what does this reference the siege of 70 AD. The abomination of desolation standing in the holy place, that references what Titus and them coming to destroy Jerusalem. Then let them which be in Judea flee into the mountains. Where is these mountains? It's the interior coast of Africa. Because when you read Babylon to Timbuktu, it lets you know that we went from Jerusalem to the interior coast of Africa, right, among the Hamites, and then from there back to the Micah 4 and verse 10. It says, ye shall select, it says, like a woman in travail, for now shalt thou go forth out of the city, out of Jerusalem, and thou shalt dwell in the field, go into Africa. Even could research and get it. Let's see if I could get it quickly here. What's going on here? Is it Fort Truda? See what it says. Let me see if they tell you where it is. Let me just look it up. Where was Fort Truda? Where is this city? Right. Just wanted to get where it was. It says Oida city in Benin. Oida is a city in southern Benin in West Africa. It is known for its role in the 17th and 19th century Atlantic slave trade. Ouch. The slave route, a track down which slaves were taken to ships. The slave route, a track down which slaves were taken to the ships, is lined with monuments and leads to the door of no return. An memorial arch on the water from the Udai Museum of History, based on an 18th century Portuguese fort, chronicles the city's slave trading past. Come on. So I'm just gonna go back to the video because I can't remember which was the name of the place where the man said.
Particularly to apologize deeply on behalf of the chiefs and people of Gold Coast and Ghana.
We do not accept your apology. The Lord asks, would you render me a recompense? Very swiftly will I return your recompense upon your own head. We don't want your apology. You can't buy your way out of this. You can't talk your way out of this. You are going into slavery for what you have done unto the nation of Israel.
For the atrocities, the cruelty, the inhuman treatment that were committed 400 years ago by my ancestors during the Atlantic slave trade, where over 400 years ago, millions of our brothers and sisters were captured, sold and transported under inhumane and cruel circumstances through Elmina Castle.
Elmina Castle. Let's look into Elmina Castle. Just look it up. Elmina Castle. Elmina Castle, also known as St. George's Castle, is the oldest European building in sub-Saharan Africa, located in the town of Elmina in the central region of Ghana. Built by who? The Portuguese. Who's these people? Edomites. In 1482, it originally served as a trading post for gold, but later became one of the most significant hubs for the transatlantic slave trade. So you see, these people had a part to play. The Hamites not getting away, and no, we are not Hamites. We won't group. These people just grouped us under all the same umbrella for one, confusion to take place, and for two, for we to not really know who he is. Some jakes, because it's easy to just sit down and say, well, you research your history as a jake, right? And what's the furthest back that you saw always take in school? It was slavery. It was slavery. You were brought to the Americas. Before that, you were enslaved or taken from the west coast of Africa And before that, you were just chilling in Africa. That is your history as a Jake man for you to know. And who chilling in Africa now? The Hamites. Well, they ain't chilling, but they in Africa right now. The Hamites. So that's as far. Yeah, I said I'm gonna see a Jake say trying to get back in touch with your roots. Where you just go? Africa. So-called motherland Africa, which motherland is in Africa. We is see Jerusalem, which is that Ephesians 5:26. No, which is with Jerusalem, which is above. Jerusalem, which is above. Galatians 4:26. This Galatians 4 and verse 26. It says, "But Jerusalem, which is above, is free, which is the mother of us all." So it's not motherland Africa. If you attribute any land in the earth to being our mother, it's the land of Israel. It's the land of Jerusalem, right? So now we want to get into the connections with two Edomites, right? Which I just want to bring one more piece up before I go to them. First Maccabees 2:10. It says, "What nation?" Right? Because they cut the fact that we sell each other into say which age would have First Maccabees 1:11. In those days when they are out of Israel, wicked men who persuaded many, saying, "Let us go and make a covenant with the heathen that are round about us. So since we departed from them, we have had much sorrow." So it could have a sellout Jake here and there, but to sit down and say them mastermind and orchestrate this whole the other nations, right? This was the plan. Lamentations 2 and 14, 15, 16. Lamentations 2 and 15 says, "All that pass by clap their hands at thee. They hiss and wag their head at the daughter of Jerusalem." Who is all that pass by all these other nations? Because these nations are recent to hate us. Think about the time underneath David. Think about the time we know the Canaanites are recent to hate us. We is always at war with them. Yeah, who's these other? We know the Canaanites are recent to hate us. Them was like we sworn enemies in the time of David, right? The ones who, David had to kill off to get his rise to fame, so say, was the Philistines, them is Canaanites. If not Canaanites, a descendant from Ham, I believe. Who was the Philistine? Okay, go back to Philistine. Is it was 17? No. 14. Genesis 10 and 14. Outside at 18, it says, "And Mizraim begat Ludem and Anamim and Lehabim and Naphtuhim and Patrushim and Casluhim, out of whom came Philistim and Torim." So what these nations, these Canaanites, these Hamitic nations, I should say, right? They have reasons to hate us because not only were they dwelling in our land and we came and take it from them, because as the Lord say, is it? I want to butcher that one. People, place, sake. Second Maccabees 5:19. It says, "Nevertheless, power did not choose the people for the place sake, but the place for the people's sake." And anyone. It was that was a good one, but Israel is the Lord's portion. Deuteronomy 32:8. 32:8. Right. Deuteronomy 32 and verse 8. It says, "When the Most High divided to the nations their inheritance, when he separated the sons of Adam, he set the bounds of the people according to the number of the children of Israel. For the Lord's portion is his people, and Jacob is the lot of his inheritance." So what the land of Israel was given unto the land, right? Or it would have been called the land of Canaan at the time because the Canaanites were there, but they would have to get up and depart out of there when it was time for us to go in. So, and they didn't like that. Because we didn't come in, you know, all laughing and kicking and smiling and then make a deal and we just walk out and we could know we utterly destroyed all of them for all the wicked abominations they were doing in the land, right? So they have reasons to hate us, right? All these nations have reasons to hate us. Go back to the time of the Exodus, go back to the time of David. Solomon would have had Hiram, who was from Tyre and Zidon. I think he was the king. Let's see. First Kings, just a copy name. Hiram. He was the king of Tyre. Right? And Solomon would have had him under subjection to build his temple. Right? Hiram, I believe when you look into his name, he was the chief architect in the building of Solomon's temple, building Solomon's home, etc., etc. Right? So they have reasons to hate us, right? They have reasons to hate us. Going back to first Maccabees 2:10, it says, "What nation had not part in her kingdom, and gotten of her spoils?" So all of these nations, right? To think for a minute, these because they're grouping all are we under the same umbrella because the Negroes is the dark tribes, right? Because the darker tribes are the nation of Israel, right? Don't think for a minute that these people don't have to suffer or they didn't have a part in us suffering. Right, and they're gonna have to pay for that. The Lord said He's gonna return the recompense swiftly upon their own head. He don't want to talk. He don't want to pay. You can't pacify the Lord's anger. Alright. So now go back to the Lamentations 2:15, and I'll go to Psalms 83 and I close it. It says Lamentations 2:15 says, "All that pass by clap their hands at thee, they hiss and wag their head at the daughter of Jerusalem, saying, Is this a city that men call the perfection of beauty, the joy of the whole earth? All thine enemies," right, "have opened their mouth against thee. They hiss and gnash the teeth. They say, We have swallowed her up. Certainly, this is the day that we looked for." They were glad to make that deal. They were glad to make that. They know it biting them in the ass because Esau Edom is not a man that is keeping covenants, right? So all of them was in league to fuck up the nation of Israel, and now Esau getting a bigger piece of the cake, and he's also doing it at your expense. Look at the things they've done to the African people, right? So-called African, let me just say so-called African people, which is the Hamites. Look at the destruction they bring upon them because how destitute they're living, which they wouldn't live good anyway. There's Hamites and don't know how to live good. Like when someone talk about the abandonment, about things they was doing in the land before we had to come and get them up out of it, right? But you understand, these people, they thought all of them was in good estate. They thought all of them, right? Everybody was cool with just fucking up the nation of Israel, but they dealt with a man who is as death and is as hell and cannot be satisfied, who heap it unto himself all people and guard it unto himself all nations. Enslaving Israel was not enough. He wants to enslave everybody else. Now you gain the shitty end of the stick. Anyway, it says, "Certainly this is a day that we looked for, we have found, we have seen." Right? Go to Psalms, the 83rd chapter. What was the plan? They didn't achieve it, but they had a right good go at it. Psalms 83 and verse 1 says, "Keep not thou silence, O power. Hold not thy peace, and be not still, O power. For lo, thine enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up their head. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people, and consulted against thy hidden ones. They have said, Come and let us," plural, "let us cast them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance." Because it's the pain and pressure they went through under David, under Solomon, pain and pressure they went through for we to get that land. They remember it to this day. Right? They remember it to this day. So don't think, because even if the plan, because the BRICS nations, all of them think they have next, which who really annexes the nation of Israel, right? I was just in the Micah where it said that. Who was next? I think it was Micah 4 and 9. Was it 4 and 9? No. Micah 4 and 8. O thou, O, and thou, O tower of the flock, the stronghold of the daughter of Zion, unto thee shall it come, even the first dominion. The kingdom shall come to the daughter of Jerusalem. So the kingdom is promised unto Israel, not these other nations, but them have plans for the eventual fall of Babylon the Great. Right? Yeah, you see them making the whole confederacies outside of America. They're making their own confederacies and plan to move away from dealing with America and the dollar. And their plan, it's in their mind, is that here we're going on when she falls, because everybody know empires will fall. The only empire that is destined to last forever is the kingdom, is the one in the kingdom to come, which will be only for the nation of Israel, right? But all these nations thinking, hey, they know this empire on the way out, right? They know they're reaching that point where, hey, no empire last past. Only one I think last past 250 years, I think, or 263, right? But they're looking at, Babylon reached 250 at their mark, so they're on the way out. And their plan is to come up in power after them. The Moab, talk about the pride of Moab. You have a Hamitic nation in there via South Africa, right? It is the Indians, which is Elamites according to scripture, the Persians, right? It was India, China, South Africa, the Russians want to come up in, which is Edomites as well. And the Brazilians, all of these people had a plan to come up here and they think they're going to make it any easier. And you Jakes, no. Pursuing to Jude the 5th chapter, them know for them to have any power within the earth, Israel has to be put down. Jude 5 and I believe 16. It says, 5 and 17, and wise, Jude 5 and 17, it says, and wise they sinned not before their power, they prospered, because the power that hated iniquity was with them. But when they departed from the way in which he appointed them, so them had to make sure Jeremiah 17 and 4 is maintained, for them to have any chance of having power within the earth. They were destroyed in many battles where we saw, and were led captives into a land that was not theirs. And the temple of their power was cast to the ground, and the cities were taken by their enemies. So in order for them to maintain or have any shot at ruling the earth, they need Israel to be put down. So you think if their plan is to rule the earth, they have any good incentives for you, Jake? No. You're just going to go from one slave master to the next, but that is not the case. The punishment of the iniquity is accomplished, O daughter of Zion. He will no more carry thee into captivity. Right? Edom going into captivity now. So now going back to Psalms 83, it reads, I think it was verse 3 I stopped. Verse 4 now. It says, they have said, come and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. For they have consulted together with one consent, all of them in agreement. They are confederate against usually the tabernacles of Edom, the Ishmaelites, who's the so-called Arabs today. But who's next? The Moabites, afterward the Hagarenes. Who's the Hagarenes? They go back to the Egyptians. Who? Gebal and Ammon, Amalek, the Philistines, the Hamites, Hagarenes, Hamites, Tyre, Hamites. Come on. All of them, they want us put down, right? They had a part to play in us being put down, right? So, Lord will this video was edifying and that you were edified and close. And it's say, Kal, Halal, Yamla, Yahweh, Ba'asham, Yahushai, Ba'asham, Raka, Kodash. Double honors unto the apostles and elders of greatness. So, as always, I say Shalom to the elect. This was our brother Isaiah saying Shalom.